Thank you all. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. For those who are in France actually right now and who are with us today, I would like to welcome you to this webinar in the Community College and France Bootcamps 2022. My name is Catherine Geppard and I'm Deputy Higher Education Attaché at the French Embassy in the US. Anna Malon is our Higher Education Program Officer and she's also with us today. We're extremely grateful to have partners both in France and in the US joining us today to say a few words about the bootcamps. Thank you so much for being here. We look forward to hearing your presentation and your insights on this program. And thank you to all of you for joining today. Please share in the chat your name and the name of your community college. We're actually curious to hear from where you're from and to learn a little bit more about you. Your engagement throughout the webinar is important. Please use the chat to ask questions or make comments at any point of the webinar. We encourage you to be interactive. This will be help to us to adapt the webinar to your needs, and we will be saving time at the end of the webinar to answer your questions. So, okay, I see the first comments. Baltimore County, Valley Community College. That's great, thank you. Okay. Now, what is our goal with those bootcamps? We really wish to provide you with all the elements and tools to communicate on the bootcamps, to better promote this opportunity to your students, and to use it for your internationalization goals. In 2020, we saw borders closed and student mobility interrupted. As the French Embassy, our role is to build connections between French and American higher education institutions. We promote France as a destination for US students and bring France to the US institutions nationwide. With this program, we would like to re-engage our support to study abroad and see more American students traveling to France, who reflect the diversity of the US actually. This program also aims at helping you as a community college to create new bridges and connections with French institutions. We've been working with community college administrators and faculty since 2007. They have been key partners for us and played an essential role in the development of our Community College in France initiative. With their support, we were able to create the bootcamps, taking into account the specific needs and obstacles of community college students to study abroad. We immensely appreciate it. I've been watching the chat function, as we said before. It's great to see community colleges really from all over the US here, and we're very happy and really please use it to ask your question. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into what the bootcamps are about. Anna?
Thank you, Catherine, and hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today. So the community college bootcamps are short-term immersive programs in France. They take place during the summer. This summer we have 4 different bootcamps to offer, which are urban sustainability in Lyon, mountains in a changing world in Grenoble, sustainable micro-architecture in Paris, and sustainable food in Dijon. So in 2019, when we were last able to organize bootcamps in person, 32 students from 21 different institutions participated in the program, as well as 7 teachers. And the overall feedback of the students was very positive, with over 87% of them saying that they had an excellent experience. And we also received excellent feedback from French faculty. They were very impressed with the motivation and also the desire to learn of community college students. And of course, unfortunately in 2020, the bootcamps were cancelled. And in 2021, with travel restrictions still in place, we organized a virtual bootcamp, and this online program was organized by NSAD, which is also organizing a bootcamp this summer. And Emmanuel Borstein is actually with us today, and she will say a few words later. about the program that NSIDE is organizing. So why should students participate in these bootcamps? So I myself experienced study abroad not that long ago, 3 years ago, I think. And it was really just a life-changing experience for me, so much so that I've been working in international education for the past 2 years. And I'm sure that a lot of you today are working in international education as well. So I don't need to go over all the benefits of studying abroad. But what I can tell you is that we really try to design these bootcamps to be as exciting and thought-provoking as possible. And with a small number of participants in each of the 4 bootcamps, we really want to ensure that they are interactive and adapted to the students' needs. So the number of participants in each of the 4 programs should range from 15 and 20 students maximum. The bootcamps will also make full use of their unique settings. So they take place all over France. So for example, in Grenoble or in Paris, and in each of the settings, each of the bootcamps will really be using these settings in their program. For example, the mountains in Grenoble. And all the bootcamps will include field trips and cultural visits. And the idea is that students will get a broad understanding of their topic through lectures, hands-on experience, and discussions with experts and scholars. And they will also work on team-based projects, and sometimes with French students, because we also want these programs to be as intercultural as possible. And we wanted to step away from the Emily in Paris experience of France, because there's more to France than just fashion and art. And in 2022, the bootcamps will focus on sustainability, as you might have noticed. And through those 4 different lenses, the bootcamps will give students the opportunity to explore how another country deals with this burning issue. For example, what are good practices that are developed in France? What kind of policies are put in place, especially at the local level? And hopefully students will gain inspiration and new perspectives that they will bring back to their studies in the US. And before we talk about the more technical aspects of the bootcamps, such as application and fees, I will leave the floor to our US partners who are with us today, and they will say a few words about how they promoted this opportunity to their students in previous year, maybe the feedback they received, and any other elements which might be of interest.
Thank you so much, Anna, for this introduction. No questions so far, but I hope we'll have some more later. And now let's move into our conversation with Cecile and Karen. I would suggest you just present yourself and say a little bit about what your position is and how you became aware of the bootcamps, and also what is your community college. Karen, you're already unmuted.
Okay, so I'll get started. First of all, very excited to be part of today's webinar, because we've now been part of these boot camps and partnering with the French Embassy now for 4 years, 5 years, it seems like. Actually seems like forever, which is great. So I'm with Connecticut's community colleges, our state universities, and we have 12 community colleges, and I oversee a College of Technology, which is actually representative of all 12 of our institutions. So in as much as, you know, we might have more students from one community college or another, the access to these opportunities really were offered to all 12 community colleges. So that was great, because it really gave us a chance to really, you know, encourage our students to potentially look at traveling abroad. I think what's really super exciting for us is that international travel is not something you often see at a 2-year college. And this was a fabulous opportunity for us to provide that for our students. So I'll let Cecile introduce herself, and then we'll kick it back to you, Katrin.
Thank you, Kieran. So good morning, everybody, and very early morning to those of you on the West Coast. My name is Cecile Regner. I am the Executive Vice President for Institutional Effectiveness at Roxbury Community College. In terms of numbers of students, I'm at the opposite end of the continuum from my colleague in Connecticut. We are a small community college. We have an average enrollment between around 3,500 students per year. We serve primarily a low-income, first-generation urban population in the city of Boston. The students in our immediate catchment area come from families with the lowest median income in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So money is scarce across the board. You're all in community college, and so I also know that you understand the circumstances that I'm speaking about. And just to reiterate some things that we heard from prior folks, I have personal commitments to international education because of my personal experience as an undergraduate faculty member and now administrator. And one of the most heartwarming things that I have heard to a person from the students that we've been able to send, again, 1 year after the Connecticut folks initiated the program, was, I never thought I would have this opportunity as a community college student. RCC did a few things to make it affordable, and again, we can speak about that later. But welcome, everybody.
Thank you, Cecile. Yeah, maybe just go right into maybe first how you promoted the boot camps in the past and how maybe you plan to do this year, even though it's under difficult conditions. And then the question of affordability, how you both have handled that, could be actually something to look at. Yeah.
So do you want to go? I'll continue. All right. So how we promoted this is really through faculty. So this College of Technology that I introduced a few minutes ago, we have a faculty member on every campus that represents the College of Technology, which I should mention focuses on engineering and technology programs. So, I really think you need that high touch approach, because students don't really, if you just do an email blast or you do something on social media, I'm not so sure they really understand what this is about. And I think, as Cecile, mentioned, they probably would say, I can't do that. This isn't going to work for me. So our faculty really have been really committed to trying to get students to apply for the boot camps. And I have to say successfully, except for last year because of COVID, we've had at least 2 or more students that have attended the boot camps. In terms of, financially supporting this, we've actually gone to our foundations for community colleges, and they've been really great about matching funds that were necessary to pay for the tuition. And then we were actually very fortunate 2 years ago to actually get some National Science Foundation funding to support international travel. And I have to thank the French Embassy because you increased it from, I think it was like 10 days to 14 days. So that now meets a lot of criteria that we needed for things like Gilman scholarships, as well as potentially other assistance that actually has a 14-day requirement. So we've been very, very lucky. Our students, we do tell them they have to have at least a few $100s, for, just incidentals and things of that nature. But pretty much we cover all of the tuition. And then, there is the scholarships through the French Embassy, that I have to say it's amazing what is provided. I mean, literally once they get onto that flight and they arrive in Paris at the airport, somebody is there picking them up in a van. And for the next 2 weeks, they don't really have to worry about anything. Their food, their transportation, all activities are very well planned and organized, so and I just want to mention, I did attend one as a faculty member, and it was fabulous in terms of, just seeing how the students interact. But then I had the ability to make some of my own relationships with, partners and faculty in France. So that was great too.
Okay, so I'll talk about the experience of a small school without kind of duplicating some of the, most important things that Karen talked about, because we shared those as well. So again, the cost of it. RCC made the determination that students wouldn't have to bear the burden, essentially, and used our foundation. I think all of us are public community colleges, and you probably have restrictions on how taxpayer dollars can be used, and at least in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, it cannot be used for international travel. And so we had to access our foundation in order to come up with the supplemental money. So in addition to the very reasonable cost of this program, we used also the foundation dollars for airfare and program expenses. Students did bring their own, were responsible for their own spending money. We have sent students and faculty members, and because college funds are used, there is an internal application process. And a very important part of that application process is the recommendation of faculty for students for the program. After having a couple of sets of faculty also attend as participants, they could speak very directly to students and have all been willing to help market the program upon their return. We did the same thing with students. So the students that were selected were not, in their last semester with us. We actually took either second or third semester students, and part of their responsibility upon return was to also do some presentations for their students, whether that was through fellow students, through government or other student organizations, and did PowerPoint presentations on the projects that they worked on while they were in France, and spoke to their personal experiences. So I think we all know that student on student or faculty on faculty communication, again, is the most effective. The one thing too that we did was students did earn college credit that was applied to degree programs here at the college. I think maybe in the technical part a little bit later, I think we've come to, there's 1.5 credits worth from the EU. What Roxbury Community College did was use a special topics colloquium course that we already had on the books. It was a 3-credit-hour course. We offered it in the summer. Students registered for that course. In that way, students understood a little bit as well about their responsibility. It gave us time to have do some pre-boot camp work with students here on campus. There was a syllabus. Student had assignments in addition to the work that they did while they were in France. There was journaling, the presentation, and other things. And so they did earn credit upon successful completion of all of the requirements. What made that easy? We already had a colloquium course. What made that easy at that time, at the initiation of the program, I was the chief academic officer and was able to go through curriculum committees, registrars, transcription, that sort of thing. Maybe smoother than in some cases. But in that way, then the courses on the student's transcript, we used it as either a humanities or social science requirement, and kind of based on the topics that were available at that time. And I think that kind of summarizes the most important things. Again, part of that, creating that feedback loop so that the faculty members who have participated, they're your best champions. The students who have participated, they're your best champions. And if the institution can figure out a way to limit the financial burdens, to kind of match what the French embassy is doing, it really turns out to be a terrific short-term experience. And I guess that was the one thing I did forget. For community college students, they can't take a year abroad, junior year abroad, or a semester abroad. They are working, they have families, other things. but many of them are able, or more of them are able to come up with a 2-week, 2 or 3 week period of time where they can take off of work and make life arrangements. And so it's the perfect combination of cost and time from my perspective.
We actually have a question from Jim. So just, yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Thanks, Jen. Good to see you again. So I have a question for Cecile and Karen. Both of you had mentioned faculty participants. Did the faculty pay their own way? Did the college support that? Last year, we actually had 2 students participate in the design program at NSAD. So that was great, but it was virtual. So I'm just curious, how did you get your faculty to be able to do this?
So I'll jump in first, and then Cecile, interesting to see how you did it. We actually have professional development money from our union. It's a collective bargaining agreement. So faculty per semester can apply for roughly $3,500. So our faculty, if they knew that they wanted to apply for this boot camp, we encouraged them at the get-go to put in the request, and so that they could encumber that funding. So, they're probably, between airfare and then, maybe some other ground transportation or incidentals, that more than covered the expenses for them to go.
Yeah, the cost for logistics, housing, food, etc. for faculty is $1,000.
Right.
And you would add the airfare to that, right? So even if it was an expensive flight, you're at $2,000 or something like that.
Yeah, no, it definitely covered all of it. The challenge, for us is that there's a limited amount of professional development money. So if you don't get your dibs in early, it's not possible that it's already been allocated to somebody else. So we start recruiting for the boot camps really in the fall, just letting people know that this is going to be happening. We hope face to face, and certainly encourage faculty who might have an interest, to put in the request for that funding. It's better to have it, approved and not use it than the other way around.
So for Roxbury Community College, as I said, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts does not allow any of the state dollars to be used for international travel, and that would include prep, scholarly conferences, et cetera. And so again, we went to our foundation. The cost is very reasonable. But faculty who were interested also had to do an application that was almost identical to the student application we really asked them to speak to how this experience was going to be incorporated into their classes. And at the end of the day, those were kind of the faculty that were able to kind of think and express that were the ones that were successful, or that we were able to send. We haven't been able to send everybody who has been interested. We used foundation money for the program fee, for airfare, local, and sometimes it was air train, that kind of thing. And the faculty also were responsible for their own personal money.
I think
so, yes, we've made it an honorific, we've made it something to kind of aspire to, and not just something everybody gets.
Yes, and that is the way I think you can definitely utilize it for your really strategic internationalization efforts. I just wanted to say to everybody who might be not that far along, who's more struggling to work with the foundation, we do see also community colleges who will just send us an email and say, okay, we know the student is wanting to apply, and we know the student, and it's a student indeed of our community college, and that's all they do when sending the student. That is an option too. What we wanted to show here is really there are different ways to use it, and to use it as a tool that you have, but you can also just experiment with it and just encourage a student to apply and just send around the flyer and see what happens. We're happy to do that as well, because the students have to submit an application anyways, which lets me transition to more the technical details and how actually students apply and all this, and Anna will talk about this. So thank you already, Cecile and Karen, for giving all of these details, and maybe if there come up other questions, we'll go back to you later in the webinar. Sure. But for now, let's go give it back to Anna so she can tell us how this goes.
Yeah, thank you so much. I can see that there's some interest in faculty participation, so I guess I'll start with that first. And thank you so much, Karen and Cecile, for mentioning and for talking about your experience in France. That's really, really interesting and helpful. So yeah, we really encourage faculty to participate in one of the bootcamps and to travel to France. This is a way for you to familiarize yourself with the French higher education system, meet with French counterparts. You'll have the opportunity to actually also meet with community college students from all over the US, which can be interesting, and gain innovative ideas that you can implement upon your return. And I think it's really a great opportunity to start building bridges with French administrators and faculty, and to maybe explore new ways to collaborate with French institutions. So there is an application form that you can fill out to apply to this opportunity to apply to the bootcamps. And if selected, you'll be able to observe the bootcamps, to participate in cultural visits, visit French campuses, build a network in France, and we will be very happy to help you doing that. If you're selected, maybe give you some contacts in France and help you maybe start building a program for your students. And we also actually welcome the participants' feedback on the program. So if you are selected, your insights on the bootcamps would be extremely helpful, and for us to make sure that we offer the best to community college students, because there's always room for improvement, of course. And like Katrine said, the participation cost is $1,000, and it includes accommodations and meals. And so you can apply online. Maybe we can put the link on the chat so that you can, there it is. The application deadline is the same as students, so it's February 15 in 1 month. So back to students. So for them to apply to the program, they just need to be enrolled in a community college for the 2021-2022 academic year, which means that even if they finish their associate degree in May, they can still apply to participate in the bootcamp during the summer. The bootcamps are entirely taught in English, so they don't need to be to speak French or to be enrolled in a French class. And also students from all disciplines are welcome. So there's no prior knowledge required on the topics to participate in the bootcamps. We're just looking for curious, motivated students that have a strong interest in cultural exchange. So we also want to make sure, like we said, that the bootcamps are as affordable as possible. So the cost of the program is $2,400. The French Embassy offers a scholarship to cover part of the cost, so that students that receive the grant will only have to pay $1,000. And that cost will include tuition fees, housing, daily meals, cultural visits, local transportation, and also pick up and drop off from the airport. The airfare is not included in that price. And when students submit an application to the bootcamps online, they automatically apply to the grant. And because we want to make sure that we have a very diverse group of students, this priority for the grant will be given to underserved and underrepresented students. And basically the grant is meant to be need-based and merit-based. And if selected, the students will have to pay their fees by April 15. We will not be able to process refunds after this date. And we will also ask students to show us proof of international health insurance for the duration of the program. And we recommend that they purchase a trip cancellation insurance. But maybe if you have any questions on that, we can go over this later on. So to apply to the bootcamps, they just need to fill out the online form, send us their most recent transcript, and be nominated. So to nominate the students, you just need to send us their full name via email. So this is basically just to confirm that they are indeed enrolled in a community college, and that you also are aware of their applications to the program. There is no limit of the number of students that you can nominate, but if you do have a lot of students, I know some prefer to rank them, but that's not required. And we also ask that you please nominate the students by the application deadline. Again, if you have any questions on those technical aspects, I'm happy to answer them later during the FAQ, and maybe we can now go over the programs.
Anna, maybe just answer one question already from the chat. Do they need to provide proof of vaccination and or a negative COVID test?
So to participate in the program, vaccination is not required, but it's highly recommended because currently in France, their students, people need either proof of vaccination or a negative test to go in restaurants, participating in different activities. So if students are not vaccinated, they basically, as of right now, as of the rules right now, they would have to, they would need COVID tests to do everything. The situation is changing a little right now. So we basically, without a vaccination, they will not have access to all the activities that the bootcamps offer.
And Anna, why don't you require it? I mean, it should. Doesn't it seem like you should?
Let me do this one. We've been thinking a lot about, should we require it, should we not? We for policy reasons, and the French political approach to this is really to speak of highly recommend things and to highly recommend vaccination statuses, and then enter into dialogue and to see what is possible, because rules might also change. But and we didn't want to check this on the form as of now. It was important for us to not ask that question now, but we put on the form also a reminder for students that it might be really difficult for them if they are not vaccinated. And it's more reassuring. So in rules are still changing, and we'll go maybe also a little bit deeper into the COVID questions and during the Q&A. But it's been a delicate way, like we all try to maneuver.
Right. Okay, thank you.
And maybe that was a very final fitting question. NH nominations come from the international office staff or the discipline faculty?
They can come from both. We just need to know that, again, the student is enrolled in a community college, and we want someone to be aware, of course, that they're applying to the program.
Yes, and community colleges are organized very differently, so we prefer not to impose who is sending the nominations. Wonderful. Let's move into the programs and see a little bit more how they are actually working. And we're going to start with Emmanuel, who is here from NSED. So this is the French higher education institution specialized on art and design. It's our national institution for that. And Emmanuel, please.
Hello, everybody. I'm very impressed to speak to all the states right now from Paris. So the bootcamp in the École des Arts Décoratifs, I say it in French because I don't know how to say that in English, will take place in July between the 11th and the 24th. This is one of the most famous art schools in France of art and design. And the school is in the Latin Quarter, and it has 10 departments. It's interesting to know a little bit about the school. I'll be very quick. The 10 departments are art, animation, graphic design, product design, textile and texture design, printed image, photography and video, stage design, and fashion design. The bootcamp will work with designers from the product design department that are already, they are finished and they're out of the school. They have their diploma and they are organizing the workshop for the bootcamp. The bootcamp is about sustainable micro-architecture, and there will be visits with professional places that are linked to the subject, and also cultural visits in Paris. We can already say they will go to Chateau de Versailles, they will take a boat to visit Paris, a whole day in Paris with a a boat bus. And also we plan to go to Montmartre. This is the 3 things we're organizing. The accommodation is 2 minutes from the school. So in the center really in the center of Paris, not far from a famous park, the Parc of Luxembourg. And the catering will be in the school. We have a new cafeteria with local product, and it's how do you call that? Organic food, organic food, and except the weekends where we'll, I suppose, go to some small restaurants or delivering food at the accommodation. The workshop will be based on doing. They will be by groups of 4 people, and they will build some models of sustainable shelter. And it's really based on exchanging, discussing, and make a few, minimum 3 models during the workshop and progress at each time. The designers will propose before the bootcamp, if the embassy is okay, and to make a presentation by Zoom at the students that are coming in this bootcamp, with a survey and pedagogical documents. So when they arrived in Paris, they can think already about and have questions about the subject. Okay. So they will work with local and recycled sources and materials. There will be a presentation and an exhibition at the end of the bootcamp, maybe in the art school or in another place, in a museum, specialized. We're working on it, but there will be a little exhibition at the end. And now I can maybe answer to your questions, and it helps us also to know about your concerns.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. Yes, I will present the bootcamp in Lyon, so urban sustainability. So the bootcamp is from June 6th to June 19th. And students will learn how to design the sustainable city of the future. So they will learn about the innovative systems that is used in the city to achieve sustainable development, such as circular economy, short food supply chain, transportation. And the city of Lyon will provide an ideal setting and context in which students will be able to explore the local policies put in place that ensure a good quality of life for a growing urban population. So Lyon is actually the 2nd or 3rd biggest city in France. I've seen both figures, I'm not sure. And the program will include lectures, interactive workshops. There's going to be, for example, a field trip to visit Keolis, which is the operator of Lyon's public transport network. and also cultural visits. And the students will also be able to meet with French students, and they will be provided with a survival French course as well.
Let me now talk about Mountains in a Changing World, our bootcamp that is offered by the University Grenoble. The university is anchored in its territory, which are the mountains. Multidisciplinary and open to international, the university brings together the main public higher education institutions of Grenoble and Valence. In association with the national research organizations and the international research facilities, it presents its territory. It builds on innovation policy on a global scale. Mountains in a Changing World will take in Grenoble that is uniquely connected to nature. I have lived there for a year myself, and I was so impressed by how everybody was talking all the time about what's happening in the mountains and how this is working and how far the snow is and what kind of snow it is. And that is really an immersive experience in Grenoble because everybody is so connected to nature. And we want to give the same experience to students coming there. The students, they would explore how the mountains are present all the time, and even more so, how the interplay between humans and the mountains work. They will start in just understanding how mountains are built and really looking into the geology of things and feeling and touching how the mountains are built as well. And really to have this feeling and touching quality and to fully immerse themselves in the mountains, students will also go on hikes. And so we need to be aware of that in the recruitment process because not everybody might be interested by really moving around in nature and having up to 4-hour hike with breaks, of course, and getting the hiking boots ready. But I've seen some community college from Utah here, and I hope that your students are even more ready to go on that journey. And what we looked at and how the week, because we had that question earlier, what looks a typical day like? It's hard to say what a typical day looks like because it's moving around a little bit. Maybe like the first day is a little bit lighter because it's just the Bootcamp day. And then on the second day, there might be the morning with a workshop. And in the afternoon, they have also time to work for themselves on their project and to advance on that. So basically over the 14 days, we try to really have a mix of maybe 2 or 3 afternoons that they are on their own, then 2 or 3, 4 more afternoons or half days where they would be doing cultural activities. And then the rest of this might be visits also to, in here it's for instance, the university has a botanical garden at 2,000 meters high in the mountains. I think that's up to, it's roughly 6,000 feet if I have done the research right and the calculation. So it's botanical garden high up in the mountains, and they would visit that and explore that with professional staff. And this is how things will move and change also around the city. But with the cultural activities, students usually get comfortable enough to take public transportation that is widely available and to explore a little bit on themselves in little groups of 2 or 3 students. Anna, do you want to go ahead and present Dijon?
Mm-hmm. So from the 1st to the 14th of June, students can also travel to Dijon, which is in the Bourgogne region. So this bootcamp will provide students with an understanding of what sustainable food means. So they will look at the impact of food production on our planet, our society, our health, and also explore how to implement sustainable production methods. And hopefully the bootcamp will give them a critical perspective also on our conception of food and how it impacts the environment. So activities will include lecture, debates, workshops, and also field trips. And they will conduct a marketing project that they will present at the end of the bootcamp. And they will also have the opportunity to taste local products, of course. So the Dijon mustard, for example, is very well known. And also to learn about the different food trends in France. And they will also be able to visit the International Gastronomy Fair, which takes place in Dijon, and I've looked it up and I really want to go myself. So it's one of the most important fairs in France around gastronomy and French cuisine. And there will be a great variety of people there, and it looks really, really great. I also want to mention that there will be pre-departure briefings that will be organized closer to the program dates to answer any of the students' questions and concerns.
Okay. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, Anna. I think we'll move into Q&A, and please all feel free to ask us questions, and for all of us, for everybody who has been speaking. We just had a question, and Anna, I think you will be the best to answer that question. When will students be notified if they are accepted?
Yes, so the application deadline is 15th of February. So it usually takes 1 month for us to select the students with our French partners. So they should receive notification in mid-March.
Any other question? Not.
I have a quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. Do faculty and students share the same experiences? Are they paired together, or is there a separate track if you're a faculty member?
Yes, so what we do is really for the faculty to observe the bootcamp, so they can go along, and then usually there are maybe 2 or 3 moments, or some partially, but a minority of the program, where they could actually meet other faculty, where they could be in touch, get a better knowledge of the institution and these things around, things that are not important for the students, but that would be important for the faculty to build connections. Because the goal of the faculty is to know how the bootcamps work, but also how to know how the institution works, and then to build contacts that they can use in the future. So usually that's how it's been working, and we do not have an official, like there will be an official program for the faculty shortly before, so it's really clear for them what their program suggestion would be. But they can also influence that when they apply, can let us know what their particular interests are, so we can see if we can match anything around that.
Thank you.
Oh, the age restriction, yes. Anna, do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, so we just asked participants to be over 18, but there's no maximum age restrictions. Just like, yeah, we just need students to be over 18 to participate. Because unfortunately, with students under 18, there are so many liability questions that make it very hard for us to provide a safe experience to the students. So we decided to unfortunately exclude them and hope that they will re-sign up or get interested again the year they turn 18. Weston, go ahead.
So purchasing trip cancellation insurance was mentioned a little bit earlier, and obviously, I mean, nobody can predict the future. We're really not sure what to expect in the coming weeks and months. But if there is a cancellation, does this trip insurance only cover flights, or are you, or is RCC willing to give refunds at a specific time, or do we need that insurance to also cover those registration fees?
I think the kind of trip insurance we've seen would cover as well the fees for the bootcamp, and would help also to the students to get reimbursed, or the faculty to get reimbursed for the fees of the program. And that's, so we're working with different community colleges also, what are their experience in using these kind of trip cancellation insurances and what have been the best ones they've seen, and then based on that we will recommend one. And the risk is personal afterwards, but we will definitely, upon selection, when the students and faculty get selected, recommend one that we've seen has been working well for others.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yes.
I can see there's a question about criteria. So for students, in the application form, they will have to answer a couple of questions. The idea is that they just demonstrate motivation and interest in the program, of course. And we're really interested to know how the bootcamps that they choose is relevant to their academic and maybe professional aspirations. So of course we will review all the applications holistically. So we will take every aspect of the application into consideration, but it's something that we like to read about, is how the bootcamps can help with their aspirations.
Yes.
For
and when it comes to this motivation question, maybe let me just, we've seen examples where students told us, like, we want to travel. Yes, we do understand that we want you to travel, but that might not be put you on top of the pile, because it's really giving us a sense of a student has actually read the program. And we will also talk more about it in 2 weeks when we do a webinar for students about really these these nitty-gritty details. But we want to get a sense the student has actually read the program and has a way of linking that to private interests, personal interests, professional interests, academic interests. Yeah. Go ahead.
So for faculty, the criteria are similar in a way, but also different, of course. We will be looking at the professional biography, and also again why you would be applying to this specific bootcamp. Also maybe what you would be looking for in a French partner, and any previous experience in France. I actually put a link in the chat that gives you access to a document that provides all the details about the application process for faculty. And yeah, it's interesting also for us to know what would be the impact of your participation in bootcamps. I hope this answered the question.
Yeah, and then there was the minimum number of students required per institutions. 1. So just 1 is fine. That's also what we want with these bootcamps. It's a big flexibility for you. You are not always able to, you don't need to build a full program for 5, 10, 15 students. You can just send 1, and that is great. And that's 1 student more who had the opportunity. Yes, then we have a question about when we will upload the detailed brochure about the Sustainable Microarchitecture Bootcamp, and we will do that very shortly in the next days. I'm sorry, it hasn't been there yet. Is the deadline for application the same for our programs?
Yes, it is the same for the 4 programs. It's also the same deadline for faculty applications.
So we will post again the link on the programs. It's on the general bootcamp site, and then okay, I think that's so. The link for each the detailed programs are on our general site. You have to scroll down a little bit, and then under the short description of each program, there is a link that says detailed programs, where you can find the programs. And some of them already contain like a little idea of how this might roll out through the 2 weeks. I think we covered a great number of questions here. We're very happy to see all those questions and to see your interest. Please feel free to reach out to us afterwards. If there are no more questions, I'll move into the conclusion. Yes, and your go-to person is really Anna, as you've seen. She's very knowledgeable, hands-on, and covers all this. Sorry.
Yeah, I just put my email in the chat. So if you have any other questions later on, please just send me an email.
Yes. So please share the flyer with your students, with your faculty, as we've seen. It's very important. I'm sorry. Oh. We'll definitely have to cut out that part. And yes, please share the flyer and the FAQ with your students. Please come back to us if you have any other question, and encourage all of your students to join our webinar in 2 weeks. So we will really talk them through the application if they have any questions, if they feel, yeah, a little bit like hesitant and should I apply, should I not apply? We want to definitely talk them into it and be adventurous with us and really go to France and have fun there with our programs. That's the goal. And hopefully we will all see you soon in some way or another.